Good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining us today on the seventh day and final day of our 2020 Empowerment Countdown. This is the last day of 2019, and we're about to launch into an amazing new decade. And I'm proud of everybody who was able to join us for these talks and of the wonderful presenters who were able to show us so many new and unique ways that we can make ourselves better in the new decade. So if you didn't get a chance to see any of those, they're all posted on Facebook and on YouTube. So if you have a chance, go back and catch some of the better ones because there's amazing content there. And I'm really happy to close out today's session on spirituality, self-directed spirituality, by talking about um, a topic which I think has the power to completely change your life in 2020, and that is choosing superior mental axioms. And I'm going to start off by defining that a little bit because this is a term that I've developed myself, but I think applies really well to the situation. And I borrow a mathematical term, axiom. What is an axiom? In mathematics, which is a process of building up true statements from other true statements using logic, there has to be a basis from which all logic starts, right? It's one of the weaknesses of logic that you can't start from absolutely nothing and then build up true statements. Logic has to start, and mathematics has to start from statements which are a priori true, which means they are soon to be true and they're not questioned directly. Or they're there because there is no good way or no known way to prove that they are true, but they appear to be, and so we use them as the basis for the rest of our constructions. Mathematics, those true statements, those unexamined statements, are considered to be axioms. And I find this to be a great term because we find this all throughout our life and throughout human behaviors in general. Right? There's so much to, complexity out there, and there's so much that needs to be thought through. A lot of who we are as individuals and a lot of our logical, rational thought processes are based on these assumptions, these a priori true statements. And it's really these, in a profound way, that govern our life and change our chance for success. They impact our actions. They govern how we interact with people, with our family members. And so if we want to make a change and we have a goal that we're seeking to be or a person that we're seeking to grow into, we're going to come into conflict at some point with these axioms. So where do these axioms come from? Most of the time, people get axioms, there are these limiting beliefs implanted in them as children. And that isn't a sinister thing necessarily. It's not a negative thing. Children are there, it's that phase of life to assimilate as much information as possible. And they have to do it quickly, and they oftentimes, one, get it wrong, or two, are only presented with a limited set of beliefs, which is available in the society and to the group of people that they're uh, born into. So your parents, your church, if you're part of a church, your religious organization, your school, the government, the society, popular culture at large, have unreasoned, frequently hidden assumptions that are made about the world and about what is important and what isn't important, baked into everything that they do. And sometimes they'll teach these to you directly, and sometimes they'll teach them to you indirectly by making certain choices and presenting them as the right choice. And it leaves it up to the human mind and the children's intellectual facilities to subconsciously ingrain the source of those decisions. And you see this all the time with children. Linguistically, it's really easy to see. If you ever talk to a small child, they may be pulling in linguistic information constantly. Children learn hundreds of words a day on average, but they have to reason about what they think is the right construction. So if you talk to a child about mice, they might say mouses, right? But we know no adult would have ever said the word mouses to them because mice is the right way to say it in English. But they've inferred from adding s, hearing adults add s to other words, that mouses is the right way to do it. And in the same way, children will encounter countless situations where they really don't understand what's going on, but they try to come to the most reasonable, logical conclusion. And we've all done this as children as well. And unfortunately, so many times these assumptions are not necessarily corrected, and we pull them through with us in life. There's the famous parable of the circus elephants who are, as young children, tethered to the ground for training. And being a small elephant, they're not able to escape. And over time, they learn not even to try. And their built-in assumption as adults is that they cannot escape the stake, which of course is hilariously wrong to us, the observer, because it's a tiny stake, and eventually they become very large elephants, and it would not even faze them to rip apart and just go wild and do whatever they wanted to do, but they're entrapped by this assumption. And so, as enlightened spiritual people, it's our responsibility to take what we've been given, to be thankful for it, and then to now take the time to really analyze the assumptions that we're operating off of and determine if they're true or not, or if we're in a realm which truth can even apply. It's an interesting fact of existence that there's so much out there that cannot 100% be proven true or false. It may even be that the concept of truth isn't really a fundamental concept of the universe, right? I'm a scientist, or I've studied science in university, and I'm drawn to that empirical system of uh, getting evidence, developing theories, testing the theories to see if they back the evidence, and the whole scientific process. And that has been phenomenally um, phenomenally powerful, especially in the last 100, 200 years, and has brought so much change in the world, giving us immense prosperity and free time and technology like this to where we can have the power to do things that we never thought possible before. The idea that a general Joe Blow off the street for almost no money, or almost no time and effort, can communicate with thousands of people all across the world is just absolutely amazing. But this scientific process has very clear limits, and there's many, many realms of that we encounter on a daily basis. The biggest of one, I think, is consciousness, that scientific method has been completely, to this point, unsuccessful at even touching the surface of. For all the medical evidence and the biological studies and the chemistry and the electrical mapping of the human body, we really have no idea where consciousness comes from. And there's decent scientific evidence out there that consciousness cannot arise necessarily entirely locally in the body, right? There's quantum components to how our consciousness operates. And so, as you know, we can't just necessarily operate entirely rationally. So there will be axioms in our life. There's going to be unexamined assumptions. And traditionally, this has been the realm of the church, of the religion, of your spiritual tradition to help you sort out. But as humanity advances and we become more and more evolved, for the lack of a better word, it's my feeling that it's really our responsibility now as individuals to sort that out for ourselves. And if we want to if we're willing to take the responsibility for our own spirituality, then we have the potential reward of cutting out those parts of our spiritual tradition that don't serve us and which seek to hold us back and keep us in line and keep us one of the many, and add in more and more powerful thoughts and more powerful axioms, which we can use to catapult ourselves to financial and relationship success and social success and giving back in ways that we never thought, that was not attainable before. So we are becoming, in a sense, our own personal religion, or our own personal, having the possibility for our own personal spiritual attainment, right? Whether you are agnostic, whether you are deeply ingrained in a particular religion, or you just don't know, right? every single one of those is a choice to have some set of unexamined, unprovable assumptions in your life. There's no escaping it. Just because you say, I don't believe in the religion of my ancestors, doesn't absolve you, or doesn't mean that you've opted out of that particular type of human behavior. You are still doing it. It's just as much a leap of faith to say that something doesn't exist to say that it does, right? So rather than just cop out and take what seems to be the easy way out, which is really just suppressing that whole mode of existence even farther, what we should be doing is trying to experience more and more opposing, potentially incompatible beliefs. So by taking in little bits from here and little bits from there and comparing them and experiencing that dissonance in yourself, you're able to have firsthand behavioral experience with these different concepts, and with what, by experiencing something that's the complete opposite of what you maybe have unconsciously been believing, and then switching maybe between one or two opposite things, you can start to weed out what has been there. And then from a conscious standpoint, from a guided standpoint, look with your best interest in heart, take concrete steps to push your belief system in a constructed manner, in a not a dissonant manner, in a harmonious manner. And so that's what I'm trying to do with my life, and that's what I think is so powerful for us in the coming decade, with all of this technology that we have, with all of the freedom that we have to think in new ways and associate with new people. If you're not around people that are helping you move forward, that are holding you back, are ridiculing you, or are just not giving everything that you need to get to the next level, take the steps this decade to find people that are moving in the right direction. And if you enjoyed what we've had to say, we'd love to have you involved, whether it's just by liking our Facebook page and following us, or any of our live events that we have hosted free at St. Paul's Free University. Reach out to us, and we'd love to have you. And thanks for watching, and I hope everybody has a wonderful new year.